Hey guys, Eric Barcia with Painting Business Pro. And in this Painting Business Pro show, I've got Brian Struble. He is the owner of Shaver Painting and Decorating in Omaha, Nebraska. They do about $2.5 million a year in business, make $400,000 a year in profit. And Brian bought his business back when it was doing $1 million a year, 2.5 years ago. Before he bought his business, he was a district manager for Sherwin-Williams for a decade, managing 18 sales reps and thousands of painting contractors in the Omaha area. So Brian, in this episode, is going to talk about his background with Sherwin. He's going to talk about his experience buying a business. Would he do it again? What suggestions would he have if you were considering a buying business? He's also going to share a lot of the successes and failures he's had over the last 2.5 years getting his business on track. So Brian is a great, great guy. I'd call him a good friend. I've known him for years. This is an awesome conversation, and I think you'll get a lot out of it. So I hope you enjoy it. Let's jump in. This is the Painting Business Pro Show, where we share inspiring stories from people who are just like you, who have created extraordinary results in their business and their life. We'll take the mystery out of it and show you behind the scenes exactly how these results happen. There's a simple process and a roadmap to follow to create life-changing success in business. You are capable of more than you realize. So listen in, discover what's possible, and let's unlock your potential. Let's go. All right, Brian, welcome to Painting Business Pro Show. Thank you for doing this. So Brian and I have been, we've known each other for a while now. And so we're just going to dive right in. So can you start by just sharing a little bit about your business that you run now? So, you bought this business, so you can share about, when you bought it, why you bought it, how much you bought it for, how it was doing then, and how it's doing now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in my early 20s, I had a painting business down in Florida. And in 2008, that kind of fell apart. It was all new res. And then I moved into, what do you do in a recession? You go back to school, right? And you get your degree. I think that's kind of the only thing to do sometimes. And I did that. And then when I graduated, I moved on and got a job with Sherwin-Williams. Had a great career with them for a decade, got to travel the country, got to sit in front of a large amount of painting contractors all over the country. I was in marketing and got to travel. And my wife and I were on vacation about 3 years ago down in Florida. We're up in Omaha now. And she says, Brian, you need to start your own business. And she saw it in me. She saw how I was tired and tired of dealing with the bureaucracy of the corporate world. And I said, no. And then it took me 6 months for me to really get the courage to make the leap. But before I did, I made that phone call to you. You were accessible to me. I don't know how we got in contact, but you and I had a phone conversation, and you were just made it so plain and simple. It was short. It was, you said something to me that I'll never forget. It's like, Brian, you can make $100K in your first year and then just go up from there. And that gave me the confidence really to leave Sherwin. And originally my plan was to start a new company. But being in the industry, being a district sales manager here in Omaha, I knew the market. I knew all the painting contractors. And I knew that the founder of Shaver Painting and Decorating was 70, had a good team, and was looking to get out and didn't know how to exit. And so we just started a conversation.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it all came about. That's the high level quick view.
Yeah, I didn't know that Karina was the one to push you into getting this whole thing started. What was your hesitation with moving into starting your business? Because you had not thought about it at all. It was just like when she mentioned it, that was the beginning, or?
I had not even thought about it for a second. So I had a painting business. Like I said, I had maybe 8, 9 guys. This was early 2000s, before Facebook, before Google. If whoever had the best painting business had the best phone book ad, right? And I found myself doing new residential, and that was a mess. And it was very turbulent. Right. So I lost my whole business in a week. On a Monday, I could say, I'm painting all these homes down this road, and this road, I'm painting all the homes. I have so much work. I can't, as quick as I could hire, I could put people in it. We're painting. But the economy changed in 2008 so fast. I was asked to rebid on a Wednesday. rebid on a Friday. By the next Monday, everything stopped and there was nothing left. So that was hard. That was a hard transition for me to go through. And so I looked for stability, and I found that in the corporate world.
Yeah.
And that's really what led me to Sherwin. What made sense. I understood paint. They appreciated my history as a painter. They utilized it quite a bit. And yeah, I was not thinking about starting a business because of the turbulent past that I had.
Yeah. And then
systems.
How did you come around to it? Because yeah, that's brutal. I mean, that wasn't even hyperbole. You literally lost. It was in a week. That's how quick it turned for you in 2009?
That's how quick it turned for me.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I was done. We were buying new vans as quick as we could and hiring people as fast as we could. Or I was, and I was young. I didn't know. I was learning as I go. Mm-hmm. And it just stopped. And this was Florida, mind you, Florida. So it was all speculative market. People buying homes as quick as they could. Just all stopped.
That's crazy. I remember in 2008, I was with College Works Painting, and they're not around much anymore. I think they're in a couple of states still, but I remember that year I feel like the company was up like 10 or 15% that year, because all repaints, all door to door. It was just, hey, look, we're just going to work harder. We're going to hit more doors. Yeah. And we did, and we grew. But yeah, to look at new construction, I could see how that went. That
done.
Was a big, yeah.
Yeah. So money dries up, the investment stops, but people are not going to relocate, buy a new home, buy a second home during a down economy. They're going to stick where they're at. And we learned from COVID, what does everybody and their brother do when you're stuck where you're at? You paint the room you're in.
Yeah.
That's
why, I mean, you've heard me say that probably too, where I'm like, that's why we don't need to worry too much about recessions and repaints, is because
correct.
I mean, I'm trying to kick the can down the road at my own house because we're building right now, and I don't want to repaint. So I'm just going to touch things up. But if something happened where I'm like, I'm going to be here for 3 more years, then all of a sudden I would be like, all right, well, I'm going to paint. I'm going to replace the washer. I'm going to replace the floors. I'm going to do those things that right now I don't want to do because I'm probably going to move. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So what made you decide? Like, so you went from turbulent, really rough past.
Yeah.
Hey, Karina says you should start a painting company. And then 6 months later, like, how did you talk yourself into it? Outside, the conversation.
Yeah. So Karina, my wife, she says, Brian, you need to start a painting business. And I remember we were on vacation down in Florida on the beach. She says this, and my reaction, of course, is no. I have a great career. I have a great future. And, but what changed my mind, what opened my eyes was your YouTube videos. I said, okay, there's a different way to acquire customers than what I knew. And let me say this, Eric. I know every painting contractor in my market. I was the district sales manager. I managed 18 sales reps who all their customers are now my competitors. I can't think of a single one, maybe one or two who are franchises who figured out Facebook or Google or acquiring 5-star reviews or using a yard sign. There's probably 3, maybe at best.
Yeah.
So my experience at Sherwin didn't give me hope. Looking at all the contractors across the market, and even in previous roles where I was traveling the country, it gave me no hope. I didn't want to, it was depressing.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go live that life again.
It's interesting that, because where my head goes is I'm like, yeah, that's the competition. Like, no one else is running this business like a real business. But yeah, I could see from your view, it's like no one is successful.
Right. And I didn't really know I didn't know what the answer was, right? I knew how to sell paint. I knew how to coach reps to sell paint. I knew some marketing stuff within the corporate. I knew training, but I couldn't tell somebody how to run a business. But then here you are giving away all your information for free on YouTube. And I'm watching these videos, and it just totally changed my perspective, opened my eyes, and I realized I could do this.
How many painting contractors were under those 18 reps?
Oh, shoot. Probably 200 to 300 each. But mind you, some of them are not legit. Some of them will just take a few jobs here and there, and they cross our path. But I could tell you, Omaha, there are about 1 million people, and we're looking at what, 55 million in paint sales.
Mhm.
The market's huge.
Product sales.
Yeah, product sales.
So there's probably 250, 300 million in paint services.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that'd be just through Sherwin's paint. Do you know what the market share is?
Yeah.
There?
So we were pretty certain that we had about 50% of the market.
Okay.
Sherwin
the guys out here
does.
says 58. So yeah, there's probably close to half a billion in painting services.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
market's huge.
Yep.
The market's huge. And most of the competitors, their work is just what lands in their lap. Nobody has gotten the wherewithal or taken the time to learn how to acquire customers successfully.
Yeah.
And that's true in every market.
Yeah, that's crazy. So what's the math on that? 18 reps. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of painting contractors.
Thousands.
It's
just insane.
wild. Well, it's funny when people say like, well, what about the competition? Like there's a lot of competition, but to your point, seeing that, I mean, what were the biggest companies, from your bird's eye view? What were the big companies doing in Omaha at the time?
Yeah, there was a few big commercial companies,
Mm-hmm.
and some of them.
What's big? How would you guys define big?
A big company would be the biggest in any market would buy $1 million in paint.
Okay.
The average painter would spend 15 to 20,000 in paint per year.
Yep.
That's the average customer. I would ask a rep, "Hey, how big is this customer?" And they say 30,000 in paint sales.
Oh.
And I was like, "Okay, this is a good sized customer."
they're probably doing 100,000 or so in revenue and doing a lot of paint.
Yeah, doing a lot of paint themselves, making a good life. Being an honest tradesperson, and that's great. But there's an easier way.
Yeah,
there's an easier way.
All right, so you decided you were going to start a business, or you first talked to Shaver, or this all happened at the same time? How did you come about acquiring the business that you bought?
Yeah, so I bought the PPP course and watched the course while I was working at Sherwin, and I decided to start my own business. But I wanted to be big time corporate man and skip the line and move ahead of everybody else and buy something that was established. And I had the perception that I was running multiple millions at Sherwin, that I could easily jump in and take $1 million business and grow it pretty fast. Yeah. The corporate environment gives you a false perception that you're better than what you think you are. Because these last 2.5 years as an entrepreneur, the one thing that I've learned is I'm not nearly as good as I thought I was.
Yeah.
There's so much to learn. And then once you learn it, it's just, there's something else beyond that. And then there's more and more. Then you can do it all over again and just do it better. And then, just better and better.
So how did you, what was tell me about the acquisition. So what was the business doing?
Yeah.
How did you actually buy a business? I think you're the first person, and not a lot of people buy businesses. I mean, when I talk to people, I tell people not to buy a business usually.
Right.
You're one of the rare people that I think when I heard how you made the acquisition, everything, I'm like, you actually got a pretty good deal. Like that wasn't a bad acquisition. So can you just share about your experience buying a business, and the more details, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. So I knew Tom Shaver. Him and his wife started this great business back in '76, and they were successful, well known in the market, and a good name for quality. They did some high end work, and it's given me access to doing some high end work. There's the former governor of Nebraska. We painted his house. The former senator of Nebraska. We're currently painting his house. So we've had access to quite a bit of high-end work, and we've enjoyed that. And the brand that he built, it was solid. So I said, this is a no-brainer. I can just take this, bolt on residential to this commercial repaint job or commercial repaint company and just do great things. That was the thought. And yeah, I bought this for around 200K, and it was really mostly the assets. So I was buying a bunch of vehicles, um, diesel lifts, box trucks, a ton of old pumps, ladders, and yet we really came up with the price just really based on the assets.
Did you guys what was the company doing in revenue at the time?
It was barely just getting past $1 million,
Okay, so it was about a
barely a
million bucks a
million.
year. Was it profitable?
It was not profitable at all.
Oh, okay. So
No.
that's where they're okay. So not
Yeah.
profitable at all, and then so that's where you came up with the valuation.
Yeah.
And did you guys do this informally, or how did the valuation happen?
Yeah, it was informal, just him and I sitting in his living room, and we just went through the books and we just came up with the number. It was very informal. Him and I
Yeah.
connected well, or he wanted somebody to take what he built and put some life into it. And he had some employees in the company who were kind of running it for years prior. So
Mhm.
he was absentee. So
Yeah.
here I am buying a company, and virtually I don't have to take anybody's spot right out of the gate. So I liked that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I thought I could
Well, that's
just
what you were going for. So let me just
yeah.
step in and own an asset and just like
Yeah.
do my wizard magic and grow this
Ex-
thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'm 47 now, and I've been through some challenging times in my life, but these last 2.5 years were the
Yeah.
most difficult time in my life.
Well, we're gonna dive into that. So just quick idea. So you bought the business for 200,000. It's doing a million a year, not profitable. It's been two and a half
Right.
years since then. And so can you give us an overview of those 2 years just in performance of the business and how it's grown over the
Yeah.
last couple of years?
Yeah. So I bought it. It was February of 22. And I came in and I believed I had to work hard and do everything all in once. So I added residential, added a cabinet division, um, barely had time to get to know the current customers because the million we did the year prior was just reoccurring work. There was no
Yep.
marketing spend whatsoever.
Yep.
And so we doubled revenue in year one, but
Great.
we did it so sloppy. It was 67% cost of goods sold.
Yikes.
So if you do the math, there's not much money left for me in
No.
year one. It was ugly. But we knew we had a gold mine, and we knew we could work through it. So the second year, which was last year, we got our COGS under control for the most part, but still we had some expenses and employees who were out of line, out of whack.
So
And
2022 was year one. Is that right?
year one,
Okay,
yep,
so that was year one where you doubled the business, but the costs were just like not healthy
out of
and it wasn't very
control,
profitable still, but
out
bigger.
of control.
And
Yeah,
then
and
23 was cleaned up a little bit. Yeah.
23, I started to clean it up. I slowed down because I was moving so fast in 22. I thought I had to do everything right away,
Yeah.
and that was wrong. In 23, I slowed down a little bit, started to, um, have clear direction as to where we were going, and start to streamline things. And another heavy weight that I was carrying was the previous owner owned the commercial space that we worked out of in the
Mm.
office space. And I just thought I could continue to rent it from him. Well, that was 7,000 a month. That just made no sense whatsoever. So we
Yeah.
downsized, office this year. We sold some equipment. We don't need a lift. We have a good relationship with our lift company. We can rent lifts. So we just made those kind of changes
Yep.
that allowed us to build a better foundation, and of course learning how to do Facebook and how to sell and other things for the residential, because we're like 95% commercial,
Right.
and we're just, my first year I added 400K in residential, but it was sloppy, it was messy. So we dialed back, figured it out this year, and now we're ready to put some fuel on the flames.
And what's revenue going to be this year and how are your margins this year?
Yeah, so cost of goods sold are about 54%.
Okay.
And mind you, that's heavy commercial.
Yep.
Top line revenue is we're pushing close to 2.5.
By the end of the year.
And
Like that's what you're trending for?
by the end of the year, trending towards that.
Yep.
And then I'm sitting at about 18% net profit
Great.
this year, which
400,
just kind of makes up for year 1 and 2.
Totally. Yeah. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
All right, so you got a 2.5 million, and then what I saw from Christiana too is it's like looking like next year is already lining up to be much better year than even this year. So now that you're cleaning up all the margins and profitability, this year's healthy. I mean, 2.5 million at 18% is good. How's next year looking already?
Next year's looking much better. We have about 1.4 in the books already. And mind you, we're commercial, so we could book something today, and it's there's not a start date till April of next year.
Yeah,
and a lot of it's commercial repaint too. A lot of it's HOA. It's a lot of HOA work.
And just for perspective, at this time last year, how much did you have booked for 2024?
Oh, probably $1 million or so. Okay. So we're doing better. Yeah. Getting work for us is easy. Mm-hmm. Doing it in an organized manner is different story altogether.
Yeah.
But getting the work we know how to do. I had some legacy employees that were wanting to do things the way we did in the 90s. You know, we would say, we're going to put more money behind Facebook. And it would be like, why don't we just turn Facebook off and buy a billboard instead? Yeah. Okay. That worked in 94. Not going to work today. So some of that is, we've shed some of that throughout this year. And now we're ready. We got a good team who we're all pointed in the same direction. Yeah. We're ready to take off.
So you basically are you're in your third year. Yeah. And you've got a $2.5 million business that's making healthy profit margins, and it's looking like it's going to be 3 to 4 million, somewhere in that range next year, with margins should be even better then, because it's still
correct
cleaned up.
Yeah.
So now I know. So now the question I want to spend some time on before we look at all the lessons learned is: would you buy it again? Would you do it again? Would you buy it again, or would you start from nothing?
I don't even have to think about it. I would start from nothing. For many reasons. One, my wife and I, we could build the culture that we want and not have to fight it for 2.5 years.
Do you feel like you fixed the culture at this point, or is that something you feel like you're still kind of fighting?
I think we fixed it recently by parting ways with one of the legacy employees.
Gotcha.
Probably she's better off, we're better off, and now we can really take this and run with it.
What cultures? Say more, about why you would start versus buy, because I think I have my thoughts on it, but from like your direct experience, what are the big reasons why?
Yeah, for me, the biggest reason's culture. So if you're a person who's working in a company and the founder is giving you an opportunity to buy it, that might be a good scenario, right? Because you're a part, you know what's up. You know what the culture is all about. You know the direction of the company. You know the history. I didn't know that. I thought I could just jump in and run with it. And people who've done things one way for so many years don't want to change overnight. Or they came into a company that was, well under 2 million. And I have this vision to take it to 5 or 10. But they don't want to work in a company like that. So they're not necessarily going to be vicious and sabotage, but they're going to sabotage it anyways.
One of the things we say is you're at any moment, you're either creating the future or you're undermining the future, and it's binary.
Yeah. One or the
other. You're not like, oh, I'm having no, that's undermining the future. You're either creating it or you're undermining it. And at this scale of a business, and really any business that grows, it's the people who are building the business, not you. Right. Like there is nothing more important than the people and the culture. And it's, I think, one of the biggest risks with buying a business is the bigger it is, the more it's relying on people, which therefore the more risk of like literally turning over all the people.
Yeah.
Because it's so hard to just hire the right culture straight away.
100%.
Buy the right culture.
Yeah. If I had a $2 million company and it was running well, and then to go acquire, let's say I go acquire somebody who's another company that's focused on something different, industrial or floor coatings, that would be fine because my culture could consume, the new culture, and we could bring it in and we could all become one fairly quickly. But for me to have nothing and then buy this and then rely on everybody that's in the office to make this thing work, no, no. Start your own business.
Do
Don't
you
do it.
think? Do you think you would be? How do you think you would be? How would your business be different now if you had started it from the beginning? Do you think you'd have a
Yeah.
$2.5 million business making these margins, or do you think like because it's hard to deny that part? If I was someone listening and I'm like, but Brian, you've got a $2.5 million business, you fixed the culture,
Yeah.
and you're making great money now.
Yeah, my wife and I, we work well together. We complement each other well, and we we wanted from the very beginning to work together and to build something together
Hmm.
and enjoy doing it. We both have a great corporate background. We have skills that were acquired, and we wanted to put it to work together. And we would have built something great within 2.5 years. Because not only, yeah, I'm making good money now, but that little bit of money that I'm making now is paying off debt from the purchase and paying off debt from mistakes made.
Well, yeah,
It,
that's the thing. And actually, I mean, you bought a business that wasn't making money, and the idea is, well, I'm just going to have it make money. I'm like, well, there's a lot of problems in a business that's not making money
yeah,
that aren't always instantly correctable if you've never done it before.
sure. Yeah.
So that's maybe an illusion that people have. And if it is making money, then the purchase price is a lot more. It's like, okay, yeah, two even if you did make money for those 2 years, you're paying that down, and now you're making your first money in year three.
Yeah.
What is there anything else you've taken just from the experience of buying a company that you would share with someone who hasn't gone through this but is thinking? Because I talk to people from time to time, who are considering buying a business. My advice is always no, but as someone who's been through it,
Yeah.
what other advice or what other considerations would you tell people to think about who are looking
Yeah.
at start or buy?
Learn to fit in before you stand out, meaning you buy a company, understand how they do things, the culture, the strengths, the weaknesses of the team, the and just don't do anything. If I would have bought this company and not made a single change in year one, we would have been better off. You know, trying to grow and scale, it costs money, so we wouldn't have spent as much. And then I would have been able to just cleanly and quickly make all the changes. If maybe that's firing everybody and hiring new, but whatever the scenario is, I could have made all those changes quickly, and then we could have started from that point. So yeah, if you're gonna, and that's true if you're gonna go into any social setting, just learn to fit in before you stand out, instead of barging in like I did and just make all changes in one day.
Yeah.
And yeah, you don't have to fix everything in one day, piece by piece.
Yeah.
And
That's one of
yeah,
those ones that you kind of have to just learn. I mean, you kind of have to learn that one the hard way.
yeah, yeah. I like to do it all. You can do it all in one shot if you understand, if you have a plan and you understand the lay of the land. But I was trying to do everything all at once without understanding the company.
Yeah.
I didn't know I didn't know the customers. I didn't know what I had on my hands. I just knew it had to change.
So you're kind of pointing to one of the. By the way, before we move on from this, is there anything else that you've had commonly talked to people about around starting versus buying? Any other advice you have? Any other common questions people have asked you? I'm not sure what else people would want to know, but I'm sure you've talked to some people about it. I don't want to just repeat
Yeah.
all the stuff I've said a million times before.
I think that I bought this company because I believed I could skip some of the grind, some of the lessons that some of the skills I needed to acquire. I could do without that and just buy an existing company and have employees go out and sell, go out and produce, go out and acquire customers. The reality is I would have been better off if I would have learned how to sell, and in the process creating the shaver sales process, and then hire to that.
Yeah.
And the same for all roles in the company. You know, I bought a company that had a full staff, and I let them do their thing. And a lot of it I didn't know how to do myself. So when you're starting, you're going to take a year to learn how to sell and then produce, then you're going to hire, but that skill is going to be with you forever.
And did you find it to be difficult to like manage your team when you didn't have like the direct experience selling or managing projects? Like, did that create issues for you with running the team
Yeah.
of the company?
Yeah, I did. And really to be more clear, what I did is I bought an existing commercial repaint company, and I had a plan just to come in and add residential. So I hired a residential sales rep from day one, production, and an ops director to help me kind of clean up the company. Well, that was too much, too many new people too quick. I didn't have the ability to train them properly, so they were out just making a mess of things. And we moved quite a bit of money pretty fast in year one, going from 1 to 2 million. And that was exciting, but it was like I said, it was messy and sloppy and stressful.
Well, and for anyone just doing, following the math, it's an extra million at a 33% margin, gross
Yeah.
margin is a
Yeah.
330,000. But you mentioned you had brought three people on,
Yeah.
so that's a couple 100,000 plus some extra marketing expense, plus some other operational expense. Like that's where that extra
Yeah.
million isn't necessarily profitable. I
Yeah.
learned just to, drive this point home a little bit. I think around, there's a couple things that I think are important to underline from what you're sharing right now. One is I screwed this up really bad where I hired somebody for a role that wasn't already created in our company. It was when we hired our marketing department. And at first it was just someone doing marketing and they did a good job. But then we started to build the department so much and we didn't have systems in place. We didn't have KPIs in place. And so there was no way for there to be accountability to any role because there were no
Right.
clear KPIs that they were accountable to. And even if they were, there was no systems that we already knew this is the system to get that KPI. So if someone's missing a KPI, we would just say, you're missing the KPI. And then they would just have reasons for not hitting it. And we're like, okay, but anyways, it would just create such an issue. I'm just thinking of like your ops director.
Yeah.
Bringing an ops director is kind of like bringing someone in and just like, I think it's an illusion. We think that you can just like just hire somebody, tell them to do a job and they know what to do, how to do it,
Right.
how to deliver. Like that person is, man, it's like winning the lottery to actually make a hire that shows up and fulfills your intentions. When you don't really
Right.
even know what your intentions are, it's really hard to find that person. So I think
Yeah.
anyways, I've fallen in that trap. And I think a lot of people think that you can just hire somebody and that person is going to just solve it.
Yeah.
I think there is one more thing I'll just add to that. I think there is like a level in business when you can solve your problems with the right who,
Mm-hmm.
but I think you need to have the skill set for how to recruit, hire, and manage that who. And that kind of who is a really expensive who that
Yeah.
most people listening to the podcast have no business spending that kind of money on that kind of person. It's a $200,000, $300,000 a year kind of person who's like a superstar.
Yeah. Absolutely. So who can come in and take ownership
Yeah.
and run with something and don't, yeah, it's rare.
Yeah. And then so anyways, I wanted to touch on that of just the hire that you don't really have a role for created.
Yeah.
You just hire them. You've got to
Yeah.
have a role designed with systems and KPIs so you can manage accountability and you can troubleshoot when they're not hitting targets.
Yeah.
But the other thing that you mentioned that I want to make sure people don't miss is learning sales is how you can then train sales. Learning production and building those processes is how you can then lead your project managers.
Yeah.
And trying to skip that rarely works too. Is there anything that you ran it? Yeah. What did you find with that? Because you came in,
Yeah.
and it was all that's how you had to come in, right? Because the company's already running, people are already doing roles, but you hadn't done them
right
in a long time at least.
So I had an employee who managed cash flow, who managed AR, basically admin, but also managed everything with regards to my money. She managed the founder's money really well, and she did mine for up until recently. And so here I am running this company, and I don't know the cash flow of my company. There's too much that I don't know to where it left me vulnerable.
Yeah.
And so I'm in the process now of really learning all those pieces, not to do them forever, but because I need to know. I need
Hmm.
to know. And I can say that for everything, even when it comes to hiring my sales rep. I mean, I know how to go out and sell. I've been doing it since I was 20. It
Yeah.
just comes naturally to me. But in an organization, in a business like this, there has to be a system. This is how shaver painting sells. I didn't have that. So I hired a guy who's really good at selling, so I could just go sell. Well, he didn't sell my way. He didn't take care of the customers. He didn't estimate profitably either. And we had a mess. And I couldn't just go in and say, hey, this is the system. This is how you're supposed to do it.
Yeah.
Follow it this way, and you'll be successful. He was frustrated. I didn't do him any favors by hiring him and bringing him on. And our customers can see the inconsistencies. And I was pulling my hair out. It was horrible.
Yeah. Yeah, there's not really any, you can't buy your way around most of the challenges that you need to work through and things you need to build when building a
Yeah.
company.
Yeah, absolutely not. And I get a call often. I get a call from Sherwin people. They'll reach out to me. Maybe we worked together in the past in some market, and they'll say, hey, Brian, this customer's retiring. I can buy it. I talk them out of it every time. Just learn, create your own logo, take ownership in it, and then just build from there and make it exactly how you want it. Put your fingerprint on everything, and then learn it, hire.
Is this do you think that people want to buy a company because of fear? Like you actually buy because I have fear of starting. So I want to buy it because I know it's already successful.
Yeah.
Is that part of the equation?
For me, it was.
Yeah.
And also for me, it was kind of an ego thing too, as well.
Hmm.
I just wanted to have something great from the beginning, and thought I could do it this way and avoid all the headaches of starting a business. Well, those headaches of starting a business are what makes you a great owner in the future. And I'm still learning it. It's very expensive to do it. It's costly, and we're making it work. At this point, my regret for buying the company is less and less every day.
Well, yeah, the longer time goes, as long
Yeah.
as it's successful, but
Yeah.
yeah, at least in first 3 years, you're like, I could have gotten here better and healthier probably
Oh yeah.
in the first
And
3 years. But from here, it's all,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And it's given us some access to customers, some reoccurring customers
right.
that are great, and we can build. We're sitting on a gold mine at the moment. We just need to build it out and
What are,
make it consistent.
what are some of the other, I jokingly asked you before the show, kind of jokingly, but it was, if you could go back to 2.5 years ago when you first started and let's say you still bought this company. You
Yeah.
can't go back and say, hey, start. You bought the company. I think you've hinted at a couple of them, but what are the three pieces of advice you would give Brian, assuming that Brian would listen to
Yeah.
future
Well,
Brian?
let's be clear. I wouldn't, because I know
Exactly.
better. I know better.
Which is probably the biggest mistake everybody makes, is not
Yes.
listening. And I have fallen victim to that so many damn times.
Me too.
But,
Me too. Even this week. For me, it would have been to buy the company, and then I didn't need to jump in to make it run. I should have let it do another million for one more year and lived off of whatever, and
couple small changes, not big changes. That's the one I
small
think
changes.
that's the one you'd hinted at already. Yep.
Yeah, small changes in that first year. I would have probably worked a lot less just to observe more, and then slow down and enjoy the process. Get to know my customers, take them out to lunch, and get to know what their goals are, and then my people as well. Not all the people that I acquired needed to stay with me for long. And if I would have taken the time to get to know them, I could have done better for them and help them find a new role outside of the company or in the company. But I was just came in so quick. And we act this way, I think, in our existing companies too, not just starting off and
Yeah.
let's just try to, okay, we wake up on a Monday, we know we got problems, we're going to fix it all today. No, for me, it was slow down to speed up. Slow down to speed up.
Which everyone has heard, everyone has said, and nobody practices.
Yeah. It's cliche. It's easy to, it's cliche. So you just stop paying attention to it. I had a vice president at Sherwin who said it all the time, and it didn't make any sense to me. And I learned in that role how to slow down, to speed up. But again, you pointed out fear. Yeah. So I became an entrepreneur overnight, and I had fear that I wouldn't have money to feed my family next week. So we had to do everything today. And I don't think fear driven to do anything is the right way to do it. And there's no reason to be fear driven.
What are the biggest one or two changes that have been really productive? So I know you've hit on a lot of these
Yeah.
mistakes, and things you would have done different, but you've done a few things really right, particularly in the last year.
Yeah.
And one of the things I always want to dig up in these conversations is making it simple. So hopefully everyone can hear. Doing lots and lots of things was the mistake.
Yeah.
What was the one or two things that have made the biggest differences?
Yeah. So when I bought the company, I wanted to add residential, add all this other stuff. And I did it too quick, like we talked about. For me to really make that turn about a year and a half in, I fired one key player and learned after the fact that what he was definitely not bringing the right culture to the table.
Yep.
But then I stopped doing cabinets. We were doing a set of kitchen a week, maybe two, sometimes up to 3 kitchens a week. I said, okay, this is a lot of work.
Yep.
And we're going to stop doing that. And we were doing residential in a very sloppy way. So I let my sales and production go for residential. And I said, you and I spoke a little over a year ago. And I decided at that time just to go all in commercial, and that's it. So that's when I really made the change, was to focus on one thing and get good at it. I still need to get really good at it, but right now I'm good at it. And that focus allowed us to dial in our cogs. It allowed me to focus on the customer, and my stress level went down. I wasn't fighting the residential process, the cabinet process, the not knowing what's going on in commercial, understanding what biz dev is and how to do that. So now we're in a position where my wife she has this year in 2024 brought residential in, but she's only done a little bit of it, just enough to learn the sales process, to learn how to produce profitably, and learn how to do the marketing. And so now we're in a position to truly add that in a way that makes sense.
Is that how you guys are planning on doing it? Is you're going to basically, it's one company, but it's 2 divisions, you could say, and you're going to run and build the whole commercial. She's going to run and build the whole residential.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Good to know.
That's the plan. And it's going to be great because she gets to focus on one thing and I get to focus on one thing.
Yep.
And I think it's unique, but it's working.
Did you watch the episode I did with Dustin Hunter, right?
Oh yeah.
I think you did. So
he cleaned house.
Yeah.
Cleaned house and made money.
He did. Well, it's funny, as you just went through those things that worked, it was almost exactly the changes he made. So Dustin was doing 1.4 million, but his margins weren't good enough. He's making over 100 grand, but super stressed out. And anyways, his thing was he fired pretty much everyone and started turning down work and fixed his margins. Like it's 3 changes. I mean, you fired the one guy that had culture issues. you quit
Yeah.
cabinets, and then you fired your whole residential team and quit
Yeah.
residential.
Yeah.
It was just axe all that, and then your main change was I increased my margin, and then you just had freed up resources to just focus on the one thing.
Focus on the one
Um,
thing. Yeah.
and look, I mean, for you guys, for who's listening, it's that's how it usually not usually, it's how it always is. Big fucking results are not from 100 things. It's from a few of the right decisions. That's from a few of the right things. And is there anything else that, like, because now you're trying to like grow this again next year? Is it
Yeah.
still from those few changes and just the new focus you have, or like is there any other changes you made aside from the ones you listed?
Yeah. So with once I made that focus and we started to move forward, other
Mhm.
things started to become obvious. One was the real estate that we were in.
That's
It
right.
didn't serve us well. It was way too expensive and not necessary. So I say we got lucky, but we were purposely looking for somewhere closer to my house and that fit our business. And we did. And cut our expenses for real estate into
Right.
a third
There's
of what
50
we were
grand,
paying.
which
Yeah. So we
drops
had 50,
straight to your bottom line. Like that goes straight in your personal account.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And then I had these diesel lifts that I just started
Yeah.
selling off. I got so good at Facebook Marketplace. I just started getting rid of stuff. I even went home and I had these brick pavers. I sold them for $80. My wife's like, when are we going to stop? I just started selling everything. I didn't
You
need
got
all.
addicted to Facebook
Yeah,
Marketplace.
exactly. The founder has accumulated. We had 8,000 square foot of stuff. I mean,
Wow.
scaffolding and just tremendous amount of ladders that we just didn't want to use, didn't need to use, and
Yeah.
just piece by piece got rid of everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll tell you just for fun. We accumulated. We didn't accumulate. We bought all this leftover paint for whatever reason. The founder was not discarding the paint. We ended up compiling this into 55-gallon drums. We had 62 55-gallon drums of waste that
Whoa.
went out. And I'm telling you, we just shed. So it doesn't matter if you bought an
Yeah.
existing company or if you're in business for yourself now. You just and Eric, I know there's probably things in your business you could dial back and shed.
Yeah. I'll show you our office out there. Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
disaster.
Yeah, just shed. Get rid of it.
Yeah.
Get rid of it. But yeah, there was a lot of heavy weight and we just got rid of it.
How did that feel? I mean, that is a lot of cleaning house. I mean, it's just that. How
Yeah.
did it feel to? How long did that whole process take, by the way, to fire all the people, quit the cabinets, increase your margin, and then just selling everything off and just cleaning? How long
Yeah.
was this?
It a year. Took us a
A year.
year. We're still like I just let go my last legacy employee very recently.
Yeah.
Very
So it's
recently.
about a year. Almost all of these things are actually about removing stuff from the business.
Yeah.
And I'm
Removing
saying that
things.
just because it's not obvious to people. But
Yeah.
the business is
Yeah.
way, way up, and mostly what you've done is get rid of stuff.
Yeah. Stop doing things and get rid of stuff. And I said to my buddy the other day, Chris Conley, and
Yeah.
I was like, how did I not see this stuff? And he again, another good cliche. It's like you were in the pill bottle, you couldn't read the label of the bottle. I think that's a cliche, but
Or whatever it is. What do you think, if you I mean, cliches aside, what do you I mean, I have some ideas about why you didn't see it. What do you think?
I was so focused on growth and more
Yeah.
that I didn't I thought the more just meant more of everything. And it's not true. It's not true.
That's my hunch too, and I that's my hunch because in the position I have, where I work with hundreds of people, and I've been in it myself, and our business is intimately coaching our partners. Like
Yeah.
I've just seen that is what blinded me for so many years was top line growth, and the culture we're in now is just holds that in such high regard, and praises it. And like, that
Yeah.
is the thing, is how big and how fast and it's just crazy. Like, what doesn't make headlines is conversations like this,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is where real business is happening, like this is real, like actually how it goes. But the addiction to fast growth and being flashy, and it's just,
Yeah.
it gets everybody so caught up on like focusing on that, and it doesn't produce healthy growth. Even if you grow fast, it's not healthy. And I've just found myself beating that drum a lot, and as you've seen and
Yeah.
known, with people, especially people who are in fast growth, because we have a lot of members who are like growing really fast, and some have been on this podcast. I'm like, hey, this is the time to like slow down, check yourself. Like, you got to get the
Yeah.
infrastructure in place to support this new level of success now, because without the infrastructure built there, it's not going to be supported, and it's going to fizzle out and be chaotic. Like, you've got to, are you building this business for next year? Or are you building this for 10 years? Like, are you building something to try to make as much money as you can in the next 1 year? Or are you trying to build something that's going to actually last and make you a good income, and something you can be proud of, and something that can stand on its own? And you can't do that one fast. The
No.
second one, the obvious
No, you
answer.
can't. Absolutely, you can't. And you can't do it. Can't do it alone either. I surrounded myself with some good friends, and friends are great to have, so you're not alone in the business. But oftentimes, the friends are not free or comfortable to speak the truth in your life and into your business. But when you hire a coach, regardless, like for me, it's in the gym, and for a bit, I hired a nutrition coach. They were able to speak freely to me to make the changes I need to fix my business. And it reminds me, I know we talked about it, but that call you and I had a little over a year ago when I just let go of my residential team, and I was like, what do I do? I'm shrinking. And you're like, no, just go all in commercial. And I did. And that's when the true growth happened, and in a lot more peaceful way.
Yeah.
A
Yeah,
lot
it's
more
great.
peaceful way.
Well, you don't need, I mean, there's so much room to grow. And you see that now. Like, what do you see as possible with this business now that you've kind of cleaned out a lot of the bullshit, and you're like, okay, I've got a healthy business to stand on now. We've got the right people. We are building the systems the right way, and our margins
Right.
are fixed, and we've got rid of all this
Yeah.
other junk. Like, you actually have a healthy foundation to, now is the appropriate time to start to focus on growth, but do it
Yeah.
in a healthy way. What do you see
Yeah.
possible now?
So for me, it's like, even we have to get better at what we're doing. I have the resources to go out and hire. There's people out there who want to come work with us. The people are there. But like, for instance, commercial repaint, we don't have documented exactly how we estimate that. We know how, we go do it, but it's not documented. So I can't bring somebody in and train them efficiently and effectively. And I want to do right by my new employee. And then another thing is not hiring out of convenience. I thought, oh, I'm great at putting together a team. I know a lot of people. I could bring us together and hire out of convenience. I'm not doing that anymore. But I'm going to hire people who I want to work with, who I enjoy being around, you know,
Yeah.
and, and that's one thing I did not have. And I do now, but we're ready to hire, but we're just going to take our time and get better, and then train when they do come on board. We owe it to them to give them a job, to give them the KPIs, and give them the training to do it in clarity of what success looks like.
Even if you don't owe it to them, nobody else does that. So,
Nobody.
I mean, it's such an advantage to, you want to attract great people, make a good offer, and then deliver on it, which includes
Yeah.
giving people great opportunities to make money, the training, the support they need to make money. And almost universally, people are undertrained. So you think it's systems that's your biggest bottleneck right now? Is just documentation of systems?
Documentation of systems is the big bottleneck. Or it's the bottleneck that's not allowing me to hire at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have skilled people, skilled estimators, skilled production. They're really good. They've been doing it forever. They do it the way I want it done, and they do it profitably. But we need to have a system to be able to hire more. We
Yeah,
need
because
more.
you said, Mark, getting more business is not the challenge for you. Like,
Not a challenge.
if I
No.
just said, here, Brian, here's the systems, and I said, and here, it sounds like you don't even have an issue getting the people.
I don't have an
There might be
issue getting the
some,
people.
maybe some management, training, development, like some of that. But it's
Yeah.
really, I can get the work and I can get the people, maybe a little support with like building that culture and team.
Yeah.
But it's also the documented system so you can effectively train people, manage people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's it. Um,
Well,
yeah,
good thing for you that building systems doesn't take long at all.
it doesn't. It's not fun. It's not sexy, but
I'm actually being totally sarcastic. Building systems is a fucking nightmare and takes forever.
it does. It does. And when you think you got it and you run through it, it's like, nope, got to redo it. Got to get
Yeah.
better.
It's one of the most. It's one of the things that I think I've underestimated the most in business is how much effort needs to go into building, improving the systems in your company. I thought for a long
Yeah.
time that once we get to 5 million a year, like my job is done, and it's like no, because at the bigger the business gets, the more nuances and systems you need.
Yeah.
And if you're running a good business, they should all be constantly being improved. And then you have even more systems that need to be tended to, more that need to be built, and more that need to be trained. And your job, once you have a team, is building, improving, maintaining systems, and training people
Yeah.
on the ever growing system. So it's like it doesn't disappear. You know, it
No.
becomes a lot more work as things grow. But it's the most important
Yeah.
work, though.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as we grow, the who and the how changes. And that all has to be documented and built upon. You don't have to throw everything away at every level, but as you grow, the who and the how will often change. You got to document that. You set your site on whatever 5-10 million. My market could easily handle a $10 million company here,
Oh yeah.
and but as I work towards that, the who and the how will change, and that has to be documented to build the team around it.
Yep.
It has to be.
All right, two more things for the people. So one, uh, everybody always wants me to ask, how do you get all these customers? Which I usually don't go into because I'm like, it's how we get all our customers. Like, it's the same thing everybody knows because
Yeah.
it's not really a marketing problem. It's usually sales and conversion problem. But commercial is a little bit different. We don't talk a lot about commercials. So, yeah, what's marketing
Yeah.
look like? Especially as someone who's like, I'm doing 2-3 million a year, and I could easily grow that. What do you do for
Yeah.
marketing sales?
Yeah. So the first is probably, I think, what we all should be doing, regardless of our total revenue, but that's keeping your head on a swivel. I walked into, I had a moment of weakness. I walked into a Burger King to get, my coffee and my whatever breakfast. And there was a general contractor sitting there. Walked over, introduced myself, struck up a conversation. He was new to the market. They're opening up a new office. They needed a painter to do a remodel of a law office that they had. And so that turned into a $18,000 job 2 weeks later. They didn't know a painter. And so that just worked. So keeping your head on a swivel and being willing to have conversations everywhere you go. So us as owners, we're not necessarily thinking that we need to be in LinkedIn, but every employee of all of our customers are on LinkedIn. So that's small, mid-sized general contractors, property managers, especially because they float from company to company, and they're all in LinkedIn. Just promote what you're doing, promote your team, promote who you are on LinkedIn, and then just start networking with everybody. And we've had a lot of success with that. And then residential and social media, residential pairs in with commercial very nicely. We've gotten a Meadowlark Renovations. We stay busy with them. They found us by some cabinet ad or whatever we had on Instagram. Open market is something I would just stay away from. And if you don't
For
know what
anybody
that,
not familiar with the
yeah,
term, open market would be like the bid sites
right,
where yeah, there's people are
yeah,
just posting up projects to bid on, and like tons of people are bidding on them. It's like a race to the bottom, and it's you don't want to get into that non-negotiated work world.
right,
You're going to get
yeah.
eaten alive.
We do have one GC that is probably a mid-size local GC,
Yeah.
and we built a relationship with them, and then they now will call me and say, hey, I got this, it's a little bit more detailed than what we normally do, can you bid it? And then we would work on price would be fine. Price would not be an issue. So there are opportunities in the GC world, but it takes time to build that relationship once they know that you could work without, work with quality.
And it takes time to find the right GCs
It takes time.
where their clientele aren't, it can't be all the super price sensitive where we're trying to squeeze everybody. Like there's no money in that for anybody. There's a lot of unworkability in that. Any other things? So Head on a Swivel, LinkedIn, your residential turning into commercial.
And then so a couple things. One, you can go to a website called Data Axle, and you can buy a list very, very cheaply of all the owners of retirement homes or all the owners of facilities larger than 20,000 square feet. And then you can just start knocking on those doors. You can do it one day a week or 4 hours a week. You just start knocking on the doors. Pick one segment. So we did churches last year. I went and talked to a whole bunch of churches. We've done 4 churches this year. Total repaints, interior. And
those are big projects, aren't they?
They're big projects. One of them was north of $100,000.
Yeah.
And then we're talking commercial. In addition to that, having your website look legit and work on the SEO, because it's we just did a job for an out of town GC. It was a new store, new tenant finish, tenant improvement. And it was small, $14,000 job, but the GC from Connecticut Googled painters in Omaha and was able to find us. And we got the job pretty at our price.
Head on a Swivel, LinkedIn, residential ads, buy a list, literally go door knocking, door to door. By the way, you can text, you can email, you can call, you can physically show up in person, you can hit them up on socials. You should do all of those in a rotating way that is not obnoxious. And if you do that, if you go take a list of 100 of your perfect clients and you hit them from every angle for 6 months, you will get work. And I think that's how commercial works.
That's how commercial
There's really
works.
Nothing too fancy. You just got to do the work.
Just do the work, and it's work. And then lastly would be you can just go to Google and Google HOA property managers. You want to stay away from the property managers that are managing single family homes, but look for the large communities. So that's anywhere from 20 to 175 homes in a community. And they go on a 7-8 year cycle of repaint. There's some HOAs that we're painting now for the 3rd time. Obviously it was painted before I bought it, but those relationships could last a lifetime.
What are you doing to maintain those relationships? Is there anything you're doing ongoing, communicating with them? Or do they just call you? You're just like...
Yeah, we know long in advance when we know they're coming due for repaint next year. We know our HOAs are booked for next year.
Yeah.
We already know who's due and who's due the year after.
Okay.
And it's just being a normal human being and being in their office when they need you.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. Do you have the last one for the people, as someone who was in Sherwin for quite a while? Most people listening to this probably use Sherwin. What insights do you have about how painting contractors should be working with their Sherwin rep, negotiating prices? All that.
Yeah. If you want to attract good customers who give you good 5-star reviews, be a good customer. So be a good customer to Sherwin, involve them in what you're doing. And if you do have any problems, involve them early so that you can partner to fix that. But understand the fact that your rep is out to sell more gallons, so their bonus check is maximized. So what you have as leverage to drive down your price is I can give you all my business or most of my business or this job if you work with me on the price. And then explain to your rep where you're going in your business, what your future plans are. And you can leverage good price that way. And then another thing, if we were talking commercial, let's say you land a repaint of some building. You can negotiate with your rep for a paint price just for that product. And they'll put it under, let's say, job 10, bank building. And then your rep is locked in to that great price only for that job. It's not, we're locked in forever. So you could get them locked in just for that one project, and they'll be more apt to negotiate with you and get a better price.
Yeah, we especially do that on commercial projects.
Yeah. You can have a decent everyday price, but you can get even more down and dirty on specific jobs.
How often should these guys talk to their reps about their pricing?
Probably quarterly.
Quarterly. I bet most people listening to this don't have that conversation quarterly. How would they approach that conversation?
Hey, let's talk about, just be direct. Hey, I need some good pricing, and don't just beat them down just for the sake of beating them down or for fun. But, understand the fact that, okay, so do it this way. Pick one product and go just say, hey, the duration is my exterior product. Get a good price on that. Where I think some painters go wrong is they try to get a good price on 15, 20 different products. I'm going to give you everything I got for exterior residential this season in duration if you could be here on this price.
Great.
And then negotiate.
Great.
Yeah.
That's simple and actionable. And then do it every quarter.
Yeah.
Check in. Hey, and I think just to circle that back to the beginning is like, be a good customer. If your business is growing and you're buying more and more paint, they're seeing that and they want to help you. They want to help you because, going all the way back to the early part of this conversation, these guys are working with 100, 200, 300 accounts.
Exactly.
Where most of them are buying $15,000 worth of paint. And so if you're someone that's doing 300 grand and you're buying 60K worth of paint, or $50,000 worth of paint, and they're seeing it go up 10 grand a quarter, like those are the people they want to work with. And so treat them great, take care of them, treat them like a human being, and focus on single products. I think that's really good, simple advice.
Yeah. And, again, it goes back to just treating them right. Call up the store, talk to the manager, and say, hey, I want to buy lunch for everybody. Here's my credit card number. Jerry, just buy lunch for the team, or however you work it out, or bring them in pizzas or whatever. I know of one painter who made homemade brownies during the holidays. They put it in an empty paint can on the counter with their company information on it. And so the customers were taking the brownies, the employees were taking the brownies, but you do little stuff like that to take care of your trade partners.
Mm-hmm.
Then when it comes time, when you need them, they'll be there for you.
Yeah. Awesome, Brian. All really great stuff. I'm sure it'll be really valuable for people. And so anything else? Any last words?
Yeah. So if you want to buy a company, don't do it. Call me first.
Yeah.
Call me first.
Call me too. I'll talk you out of it too. I was thinking of Michael. Michael. He almost bought a company for $700K. I was like, man, it's going to take you 2-3 years just to pay that thing off. You could probably just start making money right away. And I think he's pacing for over $1 million. This is like his 3rd year maybe now. And it's like, oh yeah, one of the best things he ever did. So yeah. Between you and me, we'll lead the charge for painting companies. Just start them.
Exactly.
They're not good assets to buy. Very, very rare. All right.
No.
Well, I appreciate you, man. Yeah, really appreciate you. And for anyone who didn't know, too, Brian and Ryan Kushel, who did another episode, they were kind of the guys who inspired the idea to do this podcast this way and just share unique stories from unique people. So, yeah, hope you got a lot out of it. Thanks again, Brian, and I will see you soon, my man.
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate it.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to the show. I hope you found it valuable. We make these episodes in the show for you, truly. So your feedback is super valuable to us, whether it's, things you liked, things you didn't like, what you want to see more of, what you want to see less of. Any feedback you can give us is going to be super helpful as we continue to evolve and improve the show over time. And if you want a copy of the Fast Growth Roadmap for Painting Contractors, which really simplifies the steps you take to building a business, we've got that resource for free for you. Just check the description or the bio where you're watching or listening to this episode, and you can just click and download that for free, and it should help give you a good roadmap for how to build and scale your business like the people that you're listening to on the show. So thanks for listening in. We'll see you soon.